Thank you, NHS, for everything that you're doing. Thank you.
I just wanted to quickly say a massive thank you to the NHS. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Daily Footy and Other Sports with yours truly, Taz, and
Sean.
You may have got a clue from what he is wearing today. What we're going to be discussing. It's going to be
The title says it all.
It's going to be a largely wrestling-based show, if not all. As promised, we have actually got a special guest. His name is AATIF. Some of you may know him as a stand-up comedian. Some of you may know him as a star of the BBC show Wrestlemania as well. Yeah, quite honoured to have him with us on our channel. So
you know how I know him
as well?
Yeah. You know how I know him? Me and him both love CM Punk. We love him.
I see. Sean finds weird ways of finding people. I'll let Sean slowly but surely get him into the call. But yeah, basically Atif's going to join us, and we're going to have a discussion about recent events, maybe from Wrestlemania. We might touch on a few other subjects, and if they happen to overlap with a few other sports or something like that, we might do that as well, but slightly freestyling a little bit.
Exactly. Its main thing will probably be reviewing, because WrestleMania just happened, despite all the controversies of people suggesting it should not happen, us included. Oh my goodness, I'm excited. This is AATIF.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, pleasure to meet you.
I just
good to meet you as well.
So sorry we can't meet you under normal circumstances, but we make do. We were hoping to do a bit more prep, but that's Sean's fault. Were you up for discussing a bit of wrestling, I believe?
Yeah, sure. Unless you guys want to throw a curveball, we can talk about anything you want. No problem. I got loads of time.
He's done his planning for the day. So
comedian, amazing comedian. Oh my goodness.
The only one that's not a comedian here, Sean, is you. So. Yeah, I mean, we can touch on a bit of WrestleMania, go through a couple of the matches that have gone on, and maybe discuss what your thoughts are on some of the matches and the results that came out of it. And I know you're a cricket fan as well, so we can maybe find an overlap there as well.
More than a cricket fan. People pay to hear him speak about cricket. Just more. That says it all.
That still means he's a cricket fan. It just means he's a big cricket fan.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you stop now. You're embarrassing me. Okay, guys. Well, we'll start with wrestling, like you said. It was a really interesting WrestleMania this year. First time ever, obviously, behind closed doors. And, a lot's already been said about it, but trying not to repeat what people have said. The two main kind of matches from it weren't really matches at all. They were the segments that were filmed really cinematically. And one was the Boneyard match featuring The Undertaker and AJ Styles, and the other was the Firefly Funhouse match featuring John Cena and Bray Wyatt. Now, what's interesting is WWE have been forced into the situation where they have to film their show behind closed doors. They had to pre-tape a bunch of all of the segments for WrestleMania. So they had the chance to do something different with these matches. They went for a full-blown movie-style approach. If you know anything about Vince McMahon, he famously said in a documentary in 1997 called Beyond the Map, it was 97 or 99. I mean, it was a documentary called Beyond the Map, and there's a really famous shot of him saying, "We make movies," and then he takes like a 3-minute swig of a bottle of water. That's what he's always wanted to do. He's always wanted to make movies. He's got his movie studio, which has never really produced anything sort of groundbreaking or anything, but it's there.
How dare you? John Cena was brilliant.
John Cena was brilliant in which of his 12-round films did you?
12 rounds, yeah.
He was in 12 rounds. He was in the Marine one. He was in He was in a bunch of films. I think he was in a film called The Reunion as well. He did a bunch of WWE Studios films before he got.
Some more mainstream stuff. Yeah, afterwards. What's happened?
Match happened, and we just couldn't believe what we were seeing.
Sorry, guys, we got cut off.
Oh, you're still there, still recording.
It was running. It seemed to be running okay on this side, but
Yeah.
I will say, just to follow up on that, Sean, is like, yeah, you're right. What they got right was the dynamic, because it's such a difficult tightrope to walk. Now, WWE is scripted fighting, right? People say, I don't like to use the word fake because, you know, people have literally died doing this thing. You know, there've been horrific injuries. Like, you can't. I don't like to use the word fake, but it is scripted fighting. But a lot of the allure of it is to make it believable in a very specific dynamic. So when they were making those films, they had to do it from the perspective of, look, people watching this are wrestling fans. They're used to seeing some kind of athletic contest simulation in the ring. What can we do in this, you know, in this cinematic world, or in this specific setting, to make sure we mimic enough of those elements while going a little bit, you know, cinematic on it, and still be believable-ish. Like, nobody needs to think that, okay, for real, The Undertaker just buried AJ Styles and he's dead now. Like, obviously nobody needs to think that, but you need to get people invested emotionally in this contest. Yeah. So they built very clear characters. They did use kind of action movie Wild West style traits, but at the same time, you know, they got you invested. They had all these moments that you're familiar with in wrestling, you know, where you turn the dynamic from one side to another. You go from being, you know, like, the little swerves, we call them, right? Swerves. They threw in enough of those to make it engaging. And, you know, the character work was on point. Both characters, particularly the Undertaker and AJ Styles, they showed a lot of commitment to what they were doing. They did key. So when you talk about the other match, for example, the Firefly Funhouse match, you know, you could argue that it was a little bit hokey, but again, that was set in a different realm. So whereas the Undertaker and AJ Styles were in this kind of Western, Wild West type, action movie type, you know, Terminator meets Back to the Future 3 situation. Like the Bray Wyatt and John Cena match, the Firefly Funhouse match, was more set in a fantastical realism, kind of weird, sort of like a weird fantasy type situation, like Alice in Wonderland-esque, right? That's how I would describe that match, because, you know, there were all these things that were clearly not, you know, it's set in a false reality altogether, but it was all supposed to be quite symbolic, and each segment was supposed to reflect an element or a fear of John Cena, or an element of his career, or something that went wrong or something went right. So again, a lot of thought went into it. It was a very unique presentation. And, like, you know, I feel almost bad for the wrestlers who had traditional matches on that show, because, like, people will always remember the show as being A, the one behind closed doors, and be the one where those two incredible cinematic matches happen.
Yeah, I did.
Well, maybe they remember the KO jump.
Well, I mean, it just
they remember the KO
like
jump, guys.
The KO jump.
Oh, sorry, Paz is saying something.
I know, but I mean, it just.
Of course, they remember the KO jump.
Yeah, but it just sort of felt like they invested most of their time and money into these cinematic ones, and then they just sort of said, you know, the 2 World Championship fights, you know, guys, I just want you to sort of be out there for a couple of minutes, and then we'll be done with you. Let the title change hands, and then let's all go home.
That's more than part-timers wanted to get out of there because of their own health and safety, if anything.
Also, well, there was a lot of significance in one of the title matches. I know they were both quite similar, kind of squash matchy. They were just like, they were finisher fests, because both matches just mostly, I don't think any moves other than the finishing moves were executed in either of the world title matches. But Drew McIntyre, who won the world title from Brock Lesnar in his match, right? So now he's already, because it's April now, and we don't know how much sport we're going to get in the UK this year. He's already being talked about as a hot favorite to win British Sports Personality of the Year. Like, he could win Spotty because he won, like, the main event of WrestleMania. So that would be
significant,
obviously.
No way.
Well, I don't think it'll happen either. But if you consider how little sport is going to happen in the UK this year based on this pandemic. I mean, we're hoping loads of it will happen, and come September or October, we've forgotten all about it and we've moved on and life is back to something like normal. But it's not impossible, because there's no European Football Championships, there's no Olympic Games, there's no Wimbledon, right? These are places where British players or British sports people would, excel, right? Certainly the Olympics, that's where you'd get your obvious spotty contenders in an Olympic year. So wow, Drew McIntyre, when you think about it, he's genuinely in the mix to actually win or at least be shortlisted.
He's the only contender at the moment, then, isn't he?
But even speaking about that, he's also defended his championship already. They did a segment on Raw where Big Show challenged him straight after. We were watching that, and it was actually a good match. I think it was the match they wanted.
And WWE have made the announcement that they're going to continue taping live shows. So you're going to keep seeing, I guess you'll see more defenses of his title from him. I know a lot of the roster, a lot of the performers are unhappy about the decision to keep taping live shows, because it means they keep having to fly in and out of Florida, which obviously is not ideal given the current circumstances. But that's the decision WWE have made, to continue producing a live show. I think it's because in their contract with the TV networks, whether it's USA or Fox, it's Fox, and it is Fox and USA, in America, their contracts only allows them to do like 3 or 4 taped shows a year, and the rest of them have to be live. And Vince McMahon is aware of that. I feel like there could be some kind of Corona addendum in that contract, but apparently not. So they're very keen to just keep producing live shows and honor their contract in a time where very few are being able. Like in the UK, the Premiership is in trouble because they've got a deadline with broadcasters in the UK to deliver live football matches. So if they don't do that, there's a huge financial issue that's going to arise, right? WWE is thinking ahead like that in a similar way. They've already had a severe sort of morale-crushing loss with the XFL. The XFL was a football league that Vince McMahon, who also owns WWE, or is the majority stakeholder, I should say.
It'll get me ratings.
He had to sell it. He had to sell the XFL. So you got to think about it. You got to think about how to make money in this difficult time and how to honor contracts. And I don't know how much goodwill broadcasters are showing the sports leagues based on this.
I've got a good question for you guys, actually. You spoke about USA Network and Fox. I think there's a strong relationship with BT Sports, because Drew McIntyre every day has been talking about his championship, been challenging footballers like Chris Sutton. I'm worried. Do you think there's an agenda where he may be given like the Jinder Mahal treatment? Jinder was heavily pushed because he was because India, WWE was building a head office in India. WWE wants to have a pay-per-view in the UK. They want to start really effectively well with BT Sports, because Sky Sports hated them for introducing the network. So do you think there's a possibility that they're going to give Drew this initial mega push until they get the pay-per-view over and done with, and BT Sports becomes satisfied, and then toss him aside?
Who wants that first? I'll let you go first.
I mean, I'll happily chime in there. It's very. I don't think there's any kind of apt comparison between Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. I know they were both in the same stable, 3MB, but they come from they've got a very different build-up here. Like Drew McIntyre has a very exciting story, which was told in montage form before the match as well. Like he's worked his way up. He got there. He against all the odds, a long-term story arc. He was the chosen one. Then he had to go away. Then he got fired. Then he came back. Then he did this, and he built his way up and effectively got to the top of the mountain in a nice, satisfying story arc. Whereas Jinder Mahal kind of came out of nowhere. He went from being the guy who loses every single week to the world champion in a transparently commercial move. And they did try to get behind him. They gave him a nice long reign. They gave him like a good 6 months, if I'm not wrong. So I think Drew is a little bit different. I don't think he's there specifically because of his appeal to the British Isles. Obviously, he does have a massive appeal here, as evidenced by the celebrations on Twitter when he won. There's a lot of support for him here, and I'm sure they'll eventually do stuff here. But I don't think in the short term WWE is thinking about that, because I think foreign tours are the last thing on anybody's mind based on the current pandemic, and we don't know when things are going to go back to normal for the foreseeable future. And I mean the next couple of months at least. WWE is going to be filming all of their shows out of Florida in their performance center. where they've, where they've got some kind of like a leeway apparently to film their show. So, I don't think that will become a factor yet. The BT Sports Connection is interesting because when he did that interview, the interview that you're talking about, Sean, was actually before he won the title. It was to promote WrestleMania on BT Sport. And he called out not just Chris Sutton, which I thought was really random, call out a Blackburn striker from 20 years ago, but he also called out Tyson Fury, who actually had a match. A is like the world champion, but also had a fight for WWE last year against Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
So I think because he's got that relationship with WWE where he comes in and does stuff, he's probably thinking he'll immediately come back and work with Braun. If I throw his name out there, maybe I can get to work with him as well and make some money. This is what it's all about ultimately. That's how they get paid, based on the draw these days. So
100%.
yeah.
And then also another question I have to ask, as Atif just before came onto the show, we said that me and Atif know each other really well because of one guy, CM Punk. Backstage, what do you feel about Backstage? Edge is going to be there with his apparent long-term rival in CM Punk. They share the same females. It's going to be quite an interesting show to watch.
So I am a fan. I'm probably not as big a fan as you are, Sean, I'll be honest, but I am a very big fan of CM Punk and his work. I've always enjoyed his work and had a chance to meet him once as well. And that was very cool. But
What? Tell us about this.
Signing. It wasn't anything. It's not like he came to my house or anything, or we went for chicken burgers. It was just like an autograph signing. So it wasn't a major thing, but we did have a nice chat.
It's what you do all the time.
Yeah. So exactly. What you do all the time.
Exactly.
So I wasn't a fan. I don't like the idea. I'm not a fan of CM Punk doing Backstage. I think he's immensely devalued himself because for years he was this guy who walked away from WWE on his own terms, had this moral high ground, and then he came back. I know it was technically for Fox, not for WWE, but it is a WWE show.
Yeah.
And he came back to be like an analyst contributor. Like that was not satisfying to me at all. Like I did watch it. It was very interesting. His comments were always very interesting and all that kind of stuff. But like, the real money is in him getting back in the ring, and he's already intimated that he would do that. But I think he's just diminished his kind of ability to negotiate or his negotiation power. Now, I reckon I say that CM Punk isn't the kind of guy who thinks about these things too much. He's not very strategic. He is very much, I feel like doing this, I feel like doing that. So he's one of those people who'll just always do what he wants to do, and that's good for him. If he enjoys what he's doing and he thinks he's getting paid well for it, good for him, and he doesn't need to get back in the ring. Maybe he just enjoys teasing fans or like getting people excited. But as a fan, obviously, I'd love to see him back in the ring at some point. But with each passing year, it becomes less and less likely.
Yeah,
he had a theory.
I think the second he was in Backstage, he was never really gonna come back in the ring. Just felt like your step was always going to be back on them. The big.
He's going to be
big stage.
Apparently, his representatives reached out to WWE to offer his services for WrestleMania, and Vince McMahon said no. So Vince McMahon is quite sour on CM Punk. I think if Vince McMahon, in this circumstance, you wouldn't really want to see CM Punk's big return behind closed doors. It was bad enough that Edge had to do it that way. It was bad enough that Drew had to be coronated that way. But that's just they did it really well. But for a big moment like a Punk comeback, you'd hope it was like a WrestleMania in Chicago in some kind of stadium, right, where they blow the roof off the stadium. So like that's how you'd want to see it. I would have hated to see it happen this way anyway. But reports, and obviously these are all rumors. This is all internet stuff. I don't know if it's verified or not. But rumors suggested that CM Punk's representatives reached out to WWE and they politely declined.
Dave Meltzer quality.
I mean, it just felt like it was one of those things, really. I mean, if he was going to come back, he would have come straight back. But I didn't really see any kind of way back if he was going to take this sort of stepping stone process. I just didn't see it. I mean, I just think if the second he went to Backstage, it was just going to be as an analyst and nothing else, really.
Yeah, we should
have done it.
I think he either does one or the other. But it's interesting that he seems to want to do both. Obviously, like his role on Backstage doesn't preclude him from working with AEW, so that's still a potential thing down the line.
I'd be happy with that.
And there's always been little bits of information about him sort of negotiating or them not making the right offer. Or there's always been little bits and pieces that keep coming out. But I'm trying not to think about it. I think I'd gotten over it. Like there was a time in my life where all I wanted to see was a John Cena heel turn, but then I got over it. It's fine. Like if it happened now, it'd be very underwhelming.
Yeah, Bray killed it anyway. Bray killed it.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with him not turning heel. Thank you very much. Keep him as a face, but not if he's going to be so part time. If you're going to be a part timer, I don't want any time. No.
But you guys spoke about World Championships and the 2 cinematic matches. We've seen 2 victors from those matches collide. Me and Artie were watching it SmackDown. Braun Strowman being confronted by The Fiend, by Bray Wyatt from Firefly Funhouse. The episode, that was extraordinary. The way Bray said, "I brought you here, I can take you out." That was epic. What was both of your feelings on that?
I wasn't really that fast, if I'm honest. As I've said to you, I know, as I've said in previous shows actually, that I've always felt like the gimmicks that Wyatt has are really kind of dark and creepy, but they seem to get tired of it quite quickly. Like within a 6-month period, it just dies down. The only gimmick that Taker's ever changed to is this American Badass one, which was awesome actually. But he went back to his normal gimmick, and he's been that ever since. You know what I mean? Whereas Bray sort of has this period of time. He's got this gimmick, does something really good with it, and then it just dies down. Then he's brought this new one out.
Taker's had a few different gimmicks, right? So you had Dead Man Taker, you had the slow walking Taker, you had MMA Taker, you had Biker Taker as well. You had the Ministry Taker, where he was this evil. He's had loads of different characters. I think you're right with Bray Wyatt. They have a very short term attention span. But having said that, this Fiend character has sold so much merchandise and really captured people's imagination, like unlike any of his previous characters. It's really exciting. It's a shame that they have to come up with presentations that aren't in ring. But I think so far, because of the success of Firefly Funhouse match, they had to create something unusual. So I think Drew McIntyre is going to be a very traditional kind of world champion and have traditional matches and in ring and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with the Universal title, they're going to take it in a different direction with Braun. Like they can do weird vignettes and weird promos and backstage segments and cinematic things. They can experiment a little bit with the Bray Wyatt character because that's what he's there for, right? So that's why they injected him straight into that world title picture, I would say. Anyway, that's just my feeling on that.
And the Fiend is a cinematic horror, a scary horror movie character. That's what he is. He gets up from all the devastating moves. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, and it's nice because the last time WWE had a true horror character was Kane in his inception. So since then, WWE's never really had a truly kind of a horror type, a scary, fear-inducing character. Whereas with the Fiend, they've actually put a lot of effort. The bells and whistles are there. The thought process is there. Apparently, Bray Wyatt himself, he's very kind of hands-on with the character and with the angles and all that kind of stuff. So he and Bruce Pritchard put together that match with a little bit of input from John Cena, according to reports. So yeah, I think he's got a beautiful mind for storytelling, and if they let him kind of run amok a little bit, they'll get somewhere. With Bruce Pritchard writing the show, he's got a good shot.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And if
Just
Mr.
note
iOS
as well, I'm wary that we're on Zoom and they have a weird time restriction, don't they, after 40 minutes. So what I'll do is we'll briefly pause, take a very quick break. Not you and I. We'll be back in about 5 seconds whenever people see this. And I'll basically restart and we'll start a fresh video. All right?
Cool.